lecture tonight. He's going to present a lecture about love, which is the most appropriate subject since we are celebrating Jesus' birthday, and that's the biggest message that he left for us. So I hope that you enjoyed this lecture and be very, very welcome to this house.
Late afternoon, everybody, and I'm happy to present some ideas. I think I can honestly say 99% of them are not mine, and I hope that is accurate. Because the topic is one of love, it'll qualify at least of all to be a lecture, because somehow a lecture has the connotation of something that somebody teaches you that probably you don't know too much of. But love we all know, and the book that we're following is, our leader in this, is Joanna, Angelis, and the book is entitled Existential Conflicts. We're following her other books, but the main chapter on love, which is the second last chapter of the book, is the one that we follow most closely. Like a lot of her writings, she stays very close to earth, and she's down here where we are. You want to know how to deal with fear, or doubt, or whatever, and you can read her books and get a lot of good guidance. Today we'll look at the concept of love, and the first idea that we can maybe add to our thinking. All we're going to do is look at things that either show up here or in print and see if there's another way of looking at them that we learn a little bit more. So that a year from now, after we've passed another 12 months in our journey of life, we will have evolved more especially in the area of love. So we're going to look at a journey of love as she takes it. It's not the only thing she'd have to say about it, by all means, just a little bit. So an interpretation, many discussions, many sermons, many talks, many songs about love, and about Christmas. I'll give you one thought that we might take from this scene here. And the thought I'll give you, just as one thing to sink in, is that Christ thought that the world, human beings, were important enough to pay us a visit. And I'm sure that if king or queen of any country decided to pay you a visit because somehow by chance you even saw them once in traveling in that country, you would be quite impressed. Well, the message really is that Christ came to pay us a visit. He thought that our lives were so valuable. He wanted us to realize what he realized. There's other messages in, and that's just one little one for that picture there. Anytime I read the book on, any of the books on Joanna Angelis, I always go to the back and I look at the little small biography of Joanna Angelis, because her life is a story of love. And I find it so impressive that I go back and I read, even every couple of weeks I might wander to the chapter. I still start at the very back because it's so powerful. And first thing, that I don't know how many other incarnations she had, but we know that she was around the time of imperial Rome, and that she went to the Colosseum with her son and was martyred. Now we know that. We know there are many martyrs, and so, next story, next page. But let's take a stop and just think of it for a moment. Right? The instinct to live is so strong. And the instinct of a mother to protect her child is so strong. But she didn't hesitate for a moment. She could have said to the Romans, and who was that Roman? Who knows, who cares? She could have said to them, I don't live in Christ. She could have saved her life, and there wouldn't have And so she didn't do it to impress the Romans. She did it so it would be an inspiration for us today and for all times. So to go in there with her child, I find it hard. She also lived at the time of St. Francis of Assisi, and there was an apostle, a saint who lived his life for the poor and humanity of St. Francis. And I believe as I read this that she presented herself to Duvaldo Franco to mention him that she was incarnated during the time of St. Francis of Assisi. She also was a sister, a nun in Mexico, and it's interesting that she was the greatest poetess in the Spanish language. And we know to write, to be an artist of any kind, whether it's painting or writing or music or whatever it is, you're able to capture so much, put it in so little. And sometimes when you look at a book, and I remember, or you read, you look at a painting, and I remember the ones of Angelis said, you look at the painting of St. Van Gogh, the flowers. And when you look at it, you think you're looking at all the flowers in the world. You're able to capture so much and put it into one picture or one, and it certainly doesn't surprise me, and I'm sure it doesn't surprise any of us, that that would be the incarnation that she would want to write and capture the beautiful things of life that goes into poetry. And her last incarnation was in Brazil during the, I guess, whatever stage of independence. And when they came to the convent, she said, "Over my dead body." And so she was martyred. I see our life in a sense, and we can describe it this way, as a journey. And where we plant our flowers and our memorial, and another incarnation we plant some more. So I chose this picture. Does anybody recognize that picture? Yes. I was going to describe the Allen Gardens over here at Sherburne, but you weren't as good. So we got this picture of the Botanical Gardens in Rio. And if you ever walk up that path, you feel as though you're going into a journey of life. And when you stand beside the tall palms, it's like you feel as though they're down in bringing out the life of earth through us and bringing the life of the heavens down at the same time. And they're leading you towards the Botanical Gardens. And when you go in at the conversation, often it's very quiet. People are talking. You don't hear the words, but you know what they're communicating. You can tell by the happiness and the looks on their face. For me, those imperial palms, and they're not from Brazil, they're an import. And I think they're natural from Guyana. They're there, and they're so majestic. And we'll come back to it as we finish off our little look at this journey and see what some of these palms may be in terms of guiding us on that path towards our paradise. That's a picture I know that everybody's quite familiar with, Michelangelo's creation. And he showed it at that time when the act of creation would be in a way that would be best understood by most people. And so God created mankind, and the energy flowed up from God's hand, and mankind reached out to get it to live. It's the quote underneath, and as you can see, his love is of divine essence because it is born from the sublime fatherhood of God himself. The theme in Joanna Angelis' discussing of love is that love is part of the very act of creation. It is a psychic energy that was coming from God, and over a long period of time, which we'll look at in a minute, that energy came down to be what we see it today. So love is born from So the very nature of God, we won't ever try to grasp fully or very much the nature of God, but it is the sublime fatherhood. When we think of fatherhood, we think of creating. Fatherhood himself. And so that is our first thing she wanted us to know in this chapter of how to look at love. Any one of these things that this presentation is not going to add up to, you're going to see 10 things to know exactly. I'm going to discover something I never knew before. Each one will almost stand by itself. But together, hopefully, you'll go away with some things that will stay with you and maybe mean some more. She goes back to the very beginning like in some of the terminology they describe as the mist of, I'm sorry, I guess I'm cutting you off there, in the mist of time. And way back in the primary, a lot in the writings you'll see the manifestation that's appropriate for the time. That's an idea that we'll come back on a few times. But in the primary manifestation of love, what happened was the force of love from God. After the particles in the first act of creation happened, but there was a force of love that pulled those particles together. You may think it was chance, you may think it's magnetism, you know, it'll get different names over the generations, but it was the force of love that pulled those particles together, so that someday this mass of energy could be someplace where we could walk on. And so it says in its primary expression, the manifestation of God's love was entrusted to bring the particles together to give us matter. So that someday we would see something like this. We walk on that and we probably throw it in the garbage or get it in the garbage or whatever. And we forget that that is an act of love, a powerful one. And so that someday the world would be so that we can work out our existence and improve our stages of evolution. That happened over, well, we use the terms, and I'm sure the terms that are used are not meant to be quantitative exactly, but millions and millions of years. Bigger terms are used in there. And over the many, in this case it referred to as billions of years, the energy of love transformed the particles to higher levels of existence. And the next stage is, over billions of years, that energy of love became the plant and the vegetable life. And the significant thing in terms of her theme of the development of love is that it's not just something green, it's not just a green stone. It's life at a much higher level. It's life that can stick something down on the ground and can bring life in one form out and put it into a leaf and show it in another. It's got a sensitivity to a nervous system. And so it's the, and that's why she refers to it as that you can see where God's act of love is going. It's going to you and me. These are the stages over billions of years. Why would she bother spending us this time? Because, you know, there's so many other things we can learn. But her focus is on, look what you have. Look what has already been done to give you what you have now. And, you know, in our own language, you say, you know, stop to smell the roses. Well, we're taking some time to stop to look at what we have and what went into making it as marvelous as it is. The psychic energy, of which love is made over thousands of years, allows the unfolding of sensations up to the moment where instinct appears in animal form. And now it's not just, see, there's no, this level of creation, that's an act of love, but that love is very selfish.